Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Think about that for a moment. In a world that constantly feels out of control, where external pressures pull us in every direction, what if the real key to transformation isn't about changing our circumstances, but mastering what's already within us? Stoicism isn't just ancient philosophy, it's a toolkit for radical self-mastery, a way to cultivate unshakable resilience and clarity, no matter what life throws your way. Today, we're diving deep into the Stoic strategies that can unlock your inner power, not through wishful thinking, but through disciplined thought and action. If you're ready to stop reacting and start leading your life with purpose, you're in the right place. At the heart of Stoicism lies a simple but profound shift in perspective, one that separates what's within your power from what isn't. Picture a ship caught in a storm. The sailor can't control the wind or the waves, but they can adjust the sails, steer with intention, and keep the vessel steady. That's the Stoic mindset, directing your energy toward what you can change and letting go of the rest. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's great teachers, called this the Dichotomy of Control, a tool to cut through the noise of everyday frustration. Your emotions, your judgments, your actions, those are yours to command. The traffic, the opinions of others, the past, those aren't. And here's the real test. When you feel overwhelmed, pause and ask yourself, is this within my control? If not, resisting it only drains you, but if it is, that's where your power begins. This isn't about giving up, it's about focusing where you can actually make a difference. Think of it as mental decluttering, keeping only what serves your growth. Now, let's explore one of the most liberating ideas in Stoicism, Ammaphati, the love of fate. It's not about passive acceptance, but about embracing everything life throws at you, the good, the bad, and even the seemingly unbearable as fuel for growth. The Stoics believed that resistance to reality only amplifies suffering, while wholeheartedly accepting what happens unlocks a deeper strength. Centuries later, Friedrich Nietzsche echoed this wisdom when he wrote, "My formula for greatness in a human being is Ammaphati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity." In other words, don't just endure your fate, love it, because every obstacle, every setback is secretly an opportunity in disguise. Think about a recent challenge you faced. Maybe it was a rejection, a failure, or an unexpected change. What if, instead of fighting it, you asked, how is this shaping me? What can I learn here? That shift from resentment to curiosity is where real transformation begins. The roadblock becomes the path, the problem becomes the teacher, and suddenly you're not just surviving life, you're thriving through it. The Stoics understood something revolutionary about human experience. Reality isn't fixed, but filtered through our perceptions. Marcus Aurelius put it bluntly, take away your opinion about what's happened, and the thing itself is not hurtful. In other words, pain isn't in the event itself, but in how we frame it. A harsh comment from a coworker isn't just words, it's a mirror reflecting how much weight we choose to give it. One person hears criticism and spirals into self-doubt. Another hears the same words and sees fuel for improvement. The difference, judgment. Here's the practice. Next time you're rattled by something external, pause and strip away the story you're telling yourself. What's the bare fact? Maybe it's my boss said the report needs revisions. That's neutral. The sting comes when we layer it with meaning. They think I'm incompetent. That's where suffering creeps in. The Stoic remedy: train yourself to separate facts from interpretations. Like a sculptor chiseling away excess stone, you carve out unnecessary drama by questioning knee-jerk reactions. Imagine standing at a crossroads. Every time adversity strikes, one path leads to frustration, the other to clarity. Your perception decides which way you go. This isn't naive optimism, it's strategic thinking. When you master this shift, you'll find that much of what once upset you was never really about the event, but about the lens you were using to see it. Here's how the Stoics turned anxiety into strength by rehearsing life's toughest moments before they happen. It's called Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of evils, and it's not about pessimism but preparation. While most of us chase comfort and distractions to avoid discomfort, the Stoics did the opposite. They stared down adversity in their minds, not to fear it, but to disarm its power. Seneca put it this way: the man who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive. Imagine walking into a job interview, a difficult conversation, or a high-pressure situation with unshakable calm because you've already lived through the worst-case scenario in your mind. That's the gift of this practice. Here's how it works. Take a moment to visualize a challenge you're facing, or one you dread. Picture it vividly, the setbacks, the discomfort, even the embarrassment. But here's the twist. Then picture yourself navigating it with courage and clarity. The Stoics weren't training for despair, they were training for agency. By mentally rehearsing hardship, they removed its element of surprise, like a fire drill for the soul. Try it right now. Close your eyes. What's one thing you're avoiding because it feels uncomfortable? Now imagine facing it head-on, not as a victim of circumstance, but as someone who's already mapped the path through. How does that shift your relationship to the challenge? Modern psychology backs this up. Exposure to controlled stress builds resilience. Yet today, we often do the opposite. We numb, scroll, or overplan to avoid confronting life's uncertainties. But what if the antidote to fear isn't avoidance but familiarity? The athlete visualizes the race, the surgeon rehearses the procedure, and the Stoic does the same with life's inevitable trials. This isn't dwelling on the negative, it's reclaiming the narrative. So next time you feel unease creeping in, ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen and how would I rise to meet it? When you do, you'll find something remarkable. The obstacle you feared feels smaller, not because it changed, but because you did. One of the most transformative yet underrated practices in Stoicism is the discipline of desire. The art of training yourself to want only what aligns with your highest self. Seneca, in his letters, warned about the endless chase for more, calling unnecessary desires chains of gold, shackles disguised as treasures. Think about that for a second. How many of the things we pursue, the latest gadget, the bigger promotion, the approval of others, are actually serving us versus owning us? The Stoics weren't against ambition or enjoyment. They were against letting external cravings dictate our peace. Modern life bombards us with messages that happiness lies just beyond the next purchase, achievement, or milestone. But Seneca saw through this illusion. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. The real poverty isn't in what you lack, it's in the belief that you need it to be content. Every time we feed an unexamined desire, we hand over a piece of our freedom. And here's the irony: the more we chase, the emptier we feel. The antidote: deliberately question what you think you need. Let's try an exercise. Pick one desire you've been holding on to. Maybe it's the urge to constantly check social media for validation, the impulse to upgrade something that already works, or even the need to control how others see you. Now ask, does this align with my values, or is it just noise? The Stoics didn't preach deprivation, they championed selective focus. By pruning away desires that don't serve your growth, you create space for what truly matters: wisdom, purpose, and genuine connection. This isn't about rejecting modern life, it's about engaging with it on your terms. The next time you feel that tug of wanting something just because society says you should, pause. Breathe. Remember, desire, when unchecked, is a fog. It obscures the path. But when you align it with virtue, it becomes a compass. So what's one chain of gold you could loosen today? The moment you do, you'll feel something unexpected, lightness, because true freedom isn't having everything, it's needing very little. Marcus Aurelius, in his private writings, often reminded himself, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. That's the essence of the Stoic discipline of action, not just thinking about virtue, but living it, one deliberate choice at a time. While modern self-help often fixates on grand gestures and overnight transformations, Stoicism teaches that character isn't built in dramatic moments, it's revealed in the smallest, most ordinary decisions. Think of it like this: every action is a vote for the kind of person you're becoming. When you choose patience over irritation, integrity over convenience, or courage over comfort, you're not just doing something, you're shaping something. Yourself, consider how this plays out in daily life. You're stuck in a long line at the grocery store. The cashier is moving slowly, your schedule feels tight, and frustration starts bubbling up. Here's the fork in the road. You could sigh loudly, scroll angrily on your phone, or mutter under your breath. Or you could pause, recognize the moment as a test of your principles, and choose patience instead. That's Stoic action in practice. It's not about suppressing emotions. It's about redirecting energy toward what uplifts rather than undermines. Marcus wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Replace thoughts with actions, and the truth holds. Repeated deeds stain the fabric of who we are. So here's a challenge for today. Pick one seemingly insignificant moment and ask, what would my highest self do here? Maybe it's listening fully instead of half-engaged, speaking with kindness when you'd rather criticize, or tackling a task with full focus despite distractions. These choices might feel small, but stacked over time, they're the bricks that build an unshakable character. The Stoics didn't chase perfection, they pursued alignment. Not did I change the world today, but did my actions reflect the world I want to live in? That's how ordinary days become extraordinary training grounds. And when you look back weeks, months, or years from now, you won't just see a series of moments, you'll see a life crafted with intention. There's a moment between what happens to us and how we respond, a split second where we either react blindly or choose wisely. The Stoics called this the Discipline of Ascent, mastering that critical pause where judgment takes shape. Epictetus, who began life as a slave before becoming one of history's most revered philosophers, put it simply, it's not what happens to you, but how you take it. Picture this: you're driving and someone cuts you off abruptly. Your pulse quickens, your grip tightens on the wheel, maybe you even shout something you'd never say face to face. That surge of anger, it's not the other driver's actions causing it. It's your assent to the belief that they shouldn't have done that. Stoicism asks, what if, instead of handing over your peace to a stranger's poor decision, you reclaimed that moment as practice? Here's the key: every external event is neutral until we assign meaning to it. The car swerving isn't inherently bad, it's just metal moving through space. The frustration comes from the story we layer on top. They're disrespectful, or this always happens to me. That's where the Stoic pause intervenes. Before the emotion escalates, insert a question. Is this thought true? Is it useful? Maybe the driver made an honest mistake. Maybe they're rushing to an emergency. Or maybe it was reckless, but does your anger serve any purpose beyond raising your blood pressure? This discipline isn't about suppressing feelings, it's about questioning their roots. Where in your life do reactions flare up automatically? Maybe it's a coworker's tone, a family member's habit, or even social media outrage. Try this. For the next week, catch yourself in those heated moments and insert a breath, just one before responding. Use it to ask, what am I agreeing to here? Every time you do, you're not just diffusing a reaction, you're rewiring a reflex. The Stoics knew something neuroscience now confirms. Repeated thoughts carve neural pathways. The more you pause, the more you weaken impulsive reactions and strengthen deliberate ones. Imagine a life where small irritations no longer hijack your mood, where conflicts become chances to exercise clarity rather than chaos. That's the power of Ascent. It turns daily annoyances into a gym for the mind, and with each rep you build something unshakable. So next time instinct screams to react, remember, the space between stimulus and response is where your freedom lies. How will you use it? Resilience isn't just about weathering storms, it's about learning to dance in the rain. The Stoics called this Ataraxia, a state of unshakable calm forged not in spite of hardship but because of it. Seneca, who faced exile, chronic illness, and political betrayal, wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." Imagine that for a moment. Every challenge life throws at you isn't a barrier. It's a weightlifting session for your soul. Ancient Stoics endured plagues, wars, and personal tragedies, yet their writings reveal a quiet confidence in the face of chaos. Fast forward to today, our battles might look different: job losses, burnout, uncertainty, but the human capacity to rise remains unchanged. Here's the insight most miss: resilience isn't something you have, it's something you practice. Think back to a time you overcame something difficult. Maybe you lost a job but discovered a new passion. Maybe a rejection led you down a better path. Hidden in that experience were Stoic principles, focusing on what you could control, reframing the narrative, or finding meaning in the struggle. That's not just survival, it's alchemy. Turning leaden moments into golden growth. Modern psychology echoes this. Studies show that those who view stress as enhancing, rather than debilitating, perform better and live longer. The Stoics were millennia ahead with one radical idea: the obstacle is the way. So next time you're tested, ask, how is this honing me, not why is this happening to me? That subtle shift transforms adversity from foe to teacher, because resilience isn't about avoiding the storm, it's about becoming the kind of person no storm can break. Marcus Aurelius once reflected, "If you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your own judgment of them, and it is in your power to wipe out that judgment now." That's the heart of Stoic detachment, not withdrawing from life, but engaging fully while releasing your grip on outcomes. Think of an archer drawing their bow. They can aim carefully, control their breath, and release the arrow with precision. But once it's in flight, wind, gravity, or sheer chance determine where it lands. The Stoics admired archers for this very reason. The lesson: pour yourself into the effort, then let go of what you can't command. Consider a musician rehearsing for a concert. They can practice for hours, refine every note, and pour their soul into the performance, but they can't control whether the audience applauds or critiques. If their happiness hinges solely on the reaction, they've handed over their peace to strangers. Now shift that to your own life. Maybe it's a project at work where you've done exceptional work, but the outcome depends on a client's whim. Or a relationship where you've shown up fully, but the other person's response isn't yours to dictate. That's where detachment becomes power. It's not apathy, it's focus redirected to the only arena where you truly have agency, your own actions. Here's the practice. Identify one area where you're overly fixated on results: a promotion, a creative endeavor, even a personal goal like fitness or meditation. Now ask, have I done what's within my control? If the answer's yes, take a deep breath and release the rest. The Stoics weren't teaching passivity, they were teaching precision, channeling energy where it actually matters. Because when you stop conflating effort with entitlement, something unexpected happens. You're no longer fragile in the face of life's unpredictability. You become anti-fragile, gaining strength from the very things that once rattled you. So where in your life could detachment turn striving into serenity? The answer might just reveal your next breakthrough. One of the most intimate and powerful Stoic practices isn't found in grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It happens quietly with pen and paper. Marcus Aurelius never intended his meditations to be published. Those profound insights were meant for his eyes only, a private dialogue with himself to refine his character daily. That's the essence of Stoic journaling, not just recording events, but conversing with your deepest self. Imagine ending each day by asking, what did I learn today? Where did I stumble? How can I grow tomorrow? This simple habit turns ordinary moments into stepping stones for wisdom. Start with this tonight. Reflect on one interaction that stirred strong emotions. Maybe it was a frustration at work, a missed opportunity, or a moment of pride. Write it down not as gossip or complaint, but as material for self-study. Ask, did I act with virtue here? What would my best self have done differently? The goal isn't self-judgment, but awareness. Like a sculptor examining their work from every angle, you're refining your own character stroke by stroke. Here's why this works. The act of writing slows down the whirlwind of thoughts, forcing clarity. Emotions that felt overwhelming in the moment often reveal their lessons when put to paper. Epictetus taught that we don't control what happens to us, but we do control how we interpret it, and journaling is where that interpretation takes shape. So here's your challenge. For the next 7 days, dedicate just 10 minutes each evening to this practice. No fancy notebooks required. Even a few lines in a phone note will do. Use prompts like what tested me today, or when did I align with my values? At week's end, look back. You won't just see entries, you'll see progress, because the pen is mightier than the sword, not when it's wielded against others, but when it cuts through your own illusions. This is how philosophy moves from theory to transformation, one honest page at a time. The ancient Stoics had a remarkable tool for cutting through life's noise, one that astronauts and philosophers alike swear by. They called it the view from above. Close your eyes for a moment and picture this. You're floating high above the earth, watching your city shrink to the size of a postage stamp, then your country, then the entire planet, just a pale blue dot in the vastness of space. From that vantage point, how much do your daily stresses really matter? That argument with a coworker, the unanswered email, the trivial slight that kept you up last night, seen from the cosmos, they're barely a whisper. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily, writing, "Think of the substance of the whole, what a tiny part of it you are." It's not about dismissing your struggles, but contextualizing them. Modern science echoes this. Researchers studying the overview effect, the profound shift astronauts experience when seeing Earth from space, describe near-identical realizations. Borders vanish, conflicts seem petty, and what remains is awe for the interconnected whole. The Stoics didn't need rockets to grasp this. They trained their minds to zoom out mentally. Here's how you can try it right now. Take a current worry. Maybe it's financial stress, a strained relationship, or self-doubt, and mentally pull back. See it from a year from now, a decade, a century. Does it still loom as large? This isn't escapism, it's clarity. Like a camera switching from macro to wide-angle lens, the view from above reveals what's truly significant. That urgent deadline, a blip in your life's timeline, the opinion of someone who doesn't truly know you, a fleeting echo. What remains when you strip away the illusion of scale? Your values, your growth, the love you give and receive. So tonight, before sleep, try this. Lie back and imagine your bed floating upward past the ceiling, above the rooftops, through the clouds, until you're looking down at your life like a map. What actually matters from here? The Stoic secret isn't just thinking bigger. It's remembering how small most worries truly are when you dare to see them from the stars. In the age of endless self-improvement and forced positivity, the Stoics offer something radically different, not just counting blessings, but truly seeing them. While modern gratitude often feels like a checklist, name 3 things you're thankful for. Epictetus drilled deeper. He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. That's the difference between performing gratitude and living it. Think about your hands for a moment. The way they grip, type, hold someone you love. When was the last time you genuinely marveled at that? Stoic gratitude isn't a ritual. It's a reckoning with the ordinary miracles we ignore until they're gone. Here's the practice. Instead of rushing through a mental list each night, pick one thing you typically take for granted: running water, the ability to read, even the chair beneath you, and sit with it. Really feel its presence. The Stoics called this premeditatio, not just anticipating loss, but savoring what's here now. Marcus Aurelius wrote daily about his teachers, his health, even the bread he ate, not as empty praise, but as armor against entitlement. Because when you train yourself to see the extraordinary in the ordinary, scarcity loses its grip. So try this today. Pause mid-routine, while brushing your teeth, tying your shoes, or scrolling your phone, and ask, what's quietly sustaining me right now? That's Stoic gratitude, not ignoring life's hardships, but refusing to let them blind you to its gifts. When you do, you'll find something startling. The less you expect joy, the more you discover it, hidden in plain sight all along. Marcus Aurelius faced constant political betrayals, chronic illness, and the pressures of ruling an empire, yet he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That single line holds the key to one of Stoicism's most powerful mindset shifts. Obstacles aren't just roadblocks, they're materials. Like a blacksmith using fire to temper steel, the Stoics learned to use adversity to forge resilience. Take Thomas Edison, whose laboratory burned to the ground at the peak of his career. While others saw ruin, he calmly told his son, "There's value in disaster. All our mistakes are now ashes. We can start fresh." Within weeks, he'd rebuilt, unlocking innovations that defined the modern age. Here's the insight most miss. Growth doesn't happen despite obstacles, it happens because of them. A muscle only strengthens under resistance. A sailboat only moves forward when wind pushes against its sails. So ask yourself right now, what's one challenge in my life that feels like a stop sign? Maybe it's a career setback, a health hurdle, or a relationship strain. Now flip the script. How could this very obstacle be the training ground for a skill I lack? Patience, creativity, or courage? The frustration of a delayed project might teach you adaptability. A financial squeeze could reveal hidden resourcefulness. Even loneliness can become the soil for deeper self-awareness. The Stoics didn't just tolerate hardship, they leveraged it. When Epictetus was exiled, he turned banishment into a chance to teach philosophy to the marginalized. When Seneca faced terminal illness, he used it to write letters on living fully despite mortality. These weren't superhumans, they were masters of perspective. So next time life hands you resistance, don't just endure it, engineer with it. That traffic jam, a chance to practice stillness. That criticism, a filter to separate ego from improvement. The obstacle isn't in your way, it is the way. And the moment you see it that way, you stop fighting the storm and start learning to sail. In a world that never stops talking, the Stoics practiced something revolutionary: the art of not speaking. Seneca, who witnessed the chaos of imperial Rome's gossip and political games, wrote, "Speech is the index of the mind. The wise speak because they have something to say, fools because they have to say something." Think about that contrast. How often do we fill silence with empty words, reflexively react instead of reflect, or mistake volume for wisdom? Stoic silence isn't about muteness, it's about precision. Choosing when to engage and when to observe, like a sculptor carefully removing excess marble to reveal the statue within. Consider how this applies today. Notifications, meetings, small talk, our days are a barrage of communication. Yet how much of it truly serves us? The average person speaks roughly 20,000 words daily. Now imagine devoting just 10% of those words to what actually matters: clear ideas, meaningful connections, honest questions. That's the Stoic challenge, not just speaking less, but upgrading the quality of what remains. Here's how to practice it for one day. Experiment with intentional silence. Before responding in conversations, pause and ask, is this necessary? Is it kind? Does it improve upon the silence? You'll notice something profound. The less you say, the more weight your words carry. Meetings become focused, conflicts lose their heat. Even social media scrolling transforms when you stop reflexively commenting and start deliberately absorbing. But silence isn't just about restraint, it's about receptivity. The Stoics knew that listening deeply is where true wisdom grows. When someone speaks, most of us are already preparing our reply instead of fully hearing them. What if instead you gave others the rare gift of your full attention? Not just waiting for your turn to talk, but truly receiving their perspective. That's when silence becomes a superpower, one that builds trust, sharpens insight, and quiets the noise of ego. So today, try this. In your next conversation, let 2 extra seconds of silence linger before responding. Notice how it changes the dynamic. You might just find that the spaces between words hold more truth than the words themselves, because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Picture an archer standing at the edge of a forest, bow drawn, eyes locked on a distant target. Their fingers release the string, the arrow flies. Here's the Stoic truth: the archer controls their stance, their aim, their focus. But once that arrow leaves the bow, wind, distance, even a passing bird could alter its course. That's life, according to Epictetus, pouring your energy into what's yours to command, your effort, your intention, and letting go of the rest. Now bring this into your daily life. You're in a team meeting, presenting an idea you've poured your heart into. You've prepared, practiced, delivered it with clarity. But then silence, or worse, criticism. Your chest tightens, your mind races. Did I fail? Do they think I'm incompetent? Here's the fork in the road. You can obsess over their reactions, replaying the moment in frustration, or you can return to the archer's lesson. Did you control your preparation? Yes. Your delivery? Yes. Their responses? Not even slightly. Relationships work the same way. You choose kindness, honesty, presence, but you can't control how someone else receives it. A text left on read, a conversation that falls flat. It's easy to spiral into "if only I'd said," but the Stoics would ask, where's your power actually lying? Not in rewriting the past or scripting others' feelings, but in aligning your own actions with integrity. So here's the challenge. Take one thing gnawing at you this week, a work outcome, a social dynamic, even traffic or weather ruining your plans, and ask, is this in my control? If not, visualize setting it down like the archer watching their arrow vanish into the distance. The target was never the point, the aim was, because freedom isn't found in controlling every outcome, but in mastering where you truly hold sway, your choices, your focus, your next move. What would change if you redirected that worried energy into what you can shape? The answer might just reveal how much lighter you could breathe. Courage doesn't mean the absence of fear, it means moving forward through it. Seneca put it perfectly: a man's as miserable as he thinks he is, and as brave as he wills himself to be. Think about that. The Stoics didn't expect you to erase fear, they expected you to act alongside it. A firefighter feels their heart race before entering a burning building. An entrepreneur's hands shake before signing a risky contract. That trembling isn't weakness, it's proof you're about to do something meaningful. Now consider where fear shows up in your life. Maybe it's the dread before speaking up in a meeting, the hesitation to apply for a role that feels out of reach, or even the vulnerability of apologizing first in a conflict. These aren't inconveniences, they're opportunities to exercise Stoic courage. The key isn't waiting until you feel ready. It's recognizing that readiness comes from the doing. Here's the shift. Instead of asking, "How can I eliminate this fear?" ask, "What's worth doing despite it?" Seneca wrote letters to his friend Lucilius about facing shipwrecks, illness, and betrayal, not with reckless abandon, but with a quiet resolve to meet whatever came. That same resolve lives in the small, everyday moments you might overlook. Sending that difficult email today, having that uncomfortable conversation tomorrow. Each is a chance to build courage like a muscle. So here's your challenge. Identify one area where fear has been whispering, "Not yet," or "What if?" Then take the smallest decisive step, not around the fear, but straight through it. Because bravery isn't a grand gesture reserved for heroes. It's the accumulation of choices made by ordinary people who refuse to let fear have the final vote. What will your next choice be? Seneca once observed that most people don't live. They merely exist, drifting from one distraction to another until life slips through their fingers. In his piercing essay on the shortness of life, he wrote, "It's not that we have too little time, but that we waste so much of it. Think about that for a moment." The average human lives roughly 30,000 days, a number that seems vast until you subtract the hours spent scrolling, complaining, or chasing things that leave no mark on your soul. The Stoics weren't morbid about mortality. They were awake to it, using life's brevity as fuel to live with urgency and intention. Consider how modern life tempts us to trade our days for trivialities. Binge-watching shows we won't remember, polishing online personas that don't reflect reality, or rehearsing grievances that keep us stuck in loops. Seneca called this being busy with nothing, a frenzy of activity masquerading as progress. Meanwhile, the things that truly matter, learning, creating, connecting deeply, often get postponed for a someday that may never come. Here's the challenge. Conduct a time audit. For one day, track how you spend your hours, not just at work, but in the margins, the idle clicks, the mental rabbit holes, the conversations that drain rather than nourish. You might discover, as Seneca warned, that life is long if you know how to use it. The solution isn't cramming more into each day, it's cutting away what doesn't serve your growth. So ask yourself, what's one leak in my time bucket? Maybe it's the 30 minutes lost to social media first thing in the morning, the afternoons hijacked by gossip, or the evenings numbed by aimless entertainment. Whatever it is, don't just acknowledge it, replace it. Swap scrolling for reading, complaints for creativity, or passive consumption for active contribution. Because time isn't just passing, it's passing you by, and the great irony, the more you treat it as precious, the more it expands. Seneca's words echo across centuries. Put things off too long, and life will run out before you know it. But here's the good news. You're reading this now, which means you still have today. Not tomorrow, not someday, but this hour, this moment. So what will you do with it? The answer could redefine not just your day, but your life. History isn't just a record of the past, it's a living library of wisdom, filled with men and women who have already walked the path you're on. The Stoics understood this deeply, which is why they didn't just teach principles, they lived them, leaving behind stories that still ignite courage centuries later. Take Cato the Younger, the Roman senator who faced political corruption with unbreakable integrity, even when it cost him everything. Or Musonius Rufus, the Stoic teacher who turned exile into an opportunity to educate the disenfranchised, proving that circumstances don't define character, choices do. These weren't mythical heroes, they were flesh and blood people who grappled with fear, doubt, and injustice, yet chose virtue anyway. Their lives weren't perfect, but they were meaningful. And Stoic role models aren't confined to ancient history. Modern thinkers like James Stockdale, the naval pilot who survived 7 years as a POW by clinging to Epictetus' teachings, or even contemporary athletes and CEOs applying Stoicism in high-pressure environments show how these principles thrive in today's world. Their stories aren't just inspirational, they're instructional. When you study how Cato stood firm against tyranny or how Musonius turned hardship into a classroom, you're not just learning about them, you're uncovering blueprints for your own resilience. Want to dive deeper? Start with Plutarch's Life of Cato to witness unwavering principle in action. Explore Musonius' Rufus lectures and sayings for practical wisdom on adversity. Or for a modern take, books like The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday bridge ancient philosophy with today's challenges. The point isn't to idolize these figures, but to learn from them, to let their choices sharpen yours. So here's a question to carry forward. Which Stoic figure's story sparks something in you? Is it Marcus Aurelius' humility as emperor, Epictetus' triumph over slavery? Or perhaps someone closer to our time? Their lives remind us that philosophy isn't just about what we know. It's about who we become when tested, and that's a lesson no textbook can teach alone. Stoicism often gets mislabeled as cold or unfeeling, but nothing could be further from the truth. The Stoics weren't against emotion, they were against being controlled by it. Marcus Aurelius, who spent his reign battling wars and political turmoil, wrote in his private journal, "What harms the hive harms the bee. We are born for cooperation, like hands, like eyelids." That's not detachment, that's profound empathy. The Stoics saw compassion as a strength, not a weakness, because helping others wasn't just about charity. It was about recognizing our shared humanity. Consider how this plays out in modern life. When you listen deeply to a friend in crisis without absorbing their pain as your own, that's Stoic compassion. When a nurse stays calm during an emergency to provide better care, that's Stoic compassion. Even small acts, holding the door for a stranger or choosing patience with a frustrated coworker, reflect this balance, feeling for others while maintaining inner stability. Here's the key distinction. Stoic empathy isn't about sacrificing your peace to fix someone else's problems. It's about offering your presence, your clarity, and your action without drowning in their storm. Think of it like a lifeguard diving in to save someone. They don't flail in panic, they move with purpose. That's the Stoic approach. So how do you practice this without burning out? Start with boundaries, not walls, but filters. You can donate to a cause without taking on guilt for every unmet need. You can advocate for justice without internalizing every injustice. And when emotions run high, borrow Marcus's habit, pause and ask, what's within my power to give here? Sometimes it's a solution, sometimes just a listening ear, but always from a place of grounded strength. The next time you hear someone call Stoicism emotionless, remember, true compassion isn't measured by how much you ache for others, but by how clearly you can serve them. And that's a philosophy we could all use more of. Marcus Aurelius often pictured his mind as an impenetrable fortress, a place where no outside force could enter without permission. He called this the inner citadel, not just a metaphor, but a practical toolkit for building unshakable resilience. Think of it like this: storms may rage outside your walls, but inside you remain untouched. The question is, how do you construct that kind of mental fortification in a world designed to shake you? Start with the foundations. Every fortress needs strong walls, and yours are built from daily discipline, small, consistent choices that reinforce your boundaries. Maybe it's 5 minutes of morning reflection before checking your phone, or a nightly pause to ask, what truly tested me today? These habits act like bricks, stacking over time into something unbreakable. But here's the catch: neglect them and cracks form. Distractions, unchecked emotions, or the endless chase of external validation. Those are the siege weapons weakening your gates. Now consider your defenses. In Stoicism, the real battle isn't against outside events, it's against the thoughts you let through the door. imagine your mind as a guarded fortress gate. When criticism, failure, or chaos comes knocking, you don't have to fling the gates wide open. You get to choose. Do you let this thought in or question it first? Is this true? Is this useful? That discernment is your portcullis, your drawbridge. But a fortress isn't just about defense, it's also a refuge. Within your inner citadel lies a space of clarity where you retreat to reconnect with your core principles. For Marcus, this meant daily writing, reminding himself of virtue, even as an emperor surrounded by politics and war. For you, it might be journaling, meditation, or simply stepping back to breathe when the world feels overwhelming. The goal isn't to isolate yourself from life, but to create a sanctuary where you realign before stepping back into the fray. So here's the challenge: identify one breach in your walls this week. Maybe it's reactive anger, procrastination, or the need for constant approval. Then lay one brick, just one. A moment of pause before responding, a deliberate no to something that drains you. Because resilience isn't built in grand gestures, it's crafted in the quiet, daily act of reinforcing what matters. Your inner citadel isn't a fantasy, it's a practice. And the more you tend to it, the less any storm can shake you. Epictetus, born a slave and later one of Stoicism's greatest teachers, owned just a wooden bowl, until he saw a child drinking water with cupped hands and threw even that away. His point wasn't about deprivation, but liberation. He taught that every possession we cling to beyond necessity is a chain we willingly fasten to ourselves. Fast forward to today, where modern minimalism echoes this ancient wisdom. Less isn't just about empty shelves, it's about creating space for what truly matters. Think about your own surroundings right now. That drawer stuffed with forgotten gadgets, the closet overflowing with unworn clothes, even the digital clutter clouding your focus. Each one whispers a subtle demand on your attention and energy. The Stoics knew what science now confirms. Physical clutter breeds mental clutter. Seneca wrote, "It's not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." That's the heart of Stoic minimalism, not counting what you lack, but questioning what you think you need. Here's how to bridge philosophy to practice. Start small, grab one item you haven't used in a year, hold it and ask Epictetus' razor-sharp question: does this serve my purpose or am I serving it? That extra coffee mug, the expired gym membership, the apps draining your time, each release is a vote for freedom. But this isn't just about tossing things, it's about retraining desire. Every time you resist buying something impulsive, you're not saying no to an object, you're saying yes to sovereignty over your impulses. Now extend this to mental clutter. Just as you declutter a closet, audit your commitments. That grudgingly attended social event, the scrolling habit that leaves you emptier, even the outdated belief that you must keep up with others' lifestyles, these are invisible weights. Strip them away and something remarkable happens. Your mind gains the bandwidth to focus on creativity, growth, or simply being present. So here's your challenge today. Choose one physical possession and one mental habit to release. Not as loss, but as an exchange, trading trivialities for traction. Because true wealth was never about accumulation. It's about unshackling yourself from everything that doesn't help you live with clarity and purpose. The fewer things you need to be content, the freer you become, and that's a truth both ancient and urgently modern. The ancient Stoics didn't just master their waking hours, they designed their nights with equal intention. Seneca, who juggled philosophy, politics, and a relentless writing schedule, wasn't above ending his day like the rest of us, exhausted. But here's where he differed. Instead of collapsing into bed or numbing his mind with distractions, he deliberately unwound with purpose. In letters to his friend Lucilius, he described evenings spent in quiet reflection, reviewing the day's events not to dwell on them, but to distill their lessons. No screens, no scrolls, just a candle, his thoughts, and the wisdom to know that how you close your day shapes how you'll meet the next one. A Stoic sleep ritual isn't about rigid rules, it's about creating space between the chaos of day and the stillness of night. Try this tonight. Before turning out the light, ask yourself 3 questions, not as a chore, but as a gentle audit. What did I do well today? Where did I fall short of my principles? What's one thing I'll approach differently tomorrow? These aren't prompts for self-judgment, but for clarity. Like a farmer sorting seeds at day's end, you're separating what's worth planting anew from what's better left in the past. For Seneca, this nightly pause was also a chance to practice gratitude, not as a hurried checklist, but as a visceral acknowledgement of life's fragile gifts. Picture him writing by lamplight, savoring the simple fact of a warm blanket, a safe room, the privilege of rest. In a world obsessed with productivity hacks, Stoic wind downs offer something radical: the recognition that recovery isn't wasted time, it's the foundation of resilience. Now think about your own pre-sleep habits. Does reaching for your phone or rehashing tomorrow's to-dos leave you truly restored? Contrast that with the Stoic alternative: 10 minutes of journaling, a moment to acknowledge the day's fleeting beauty, or even just sitting in silence to let the mind settle. The difference isn't just in the actions, it's in the quality of attention they cultivate. When you close the day with intention, you don't just sleep better, you wake up already aligned. Because mornings don't begin when the alarm rings, they begin the night before. So tonight, as the world buzzes with one last notification or Netflix autoplays the next episode, ask yourself, what would it feel like to reclaim this threshold between day and night? Not as lost time, but as sacred ground where today's lessons become tomorrow's strength. That's the real power of a Stoic sleep ritual. It doesn't just prepare you for rest. It prepares you for life. Seneca once called anger the most hideous and frenzied of all emotions, comparing it to a temporary madness that leaves destruction in its wake, both for others and ourselves. Think about that for a moment. How many regretted words, fractured relationships, or impulsive decisions stem from just a few seconds of unchecked rage? But here's where Stoicism offers a lifeline. Anger isn't inevitable. It's a choice we unknowingly reinforce, and with the right tools, we can rewrite that pattern. Start with the Stoic pause. When tension flares, maybe it's a cutting remark from a colleague or the 100th interruption from a child. Your first instinct is to react. But right there, in that sliver of a second before you speak or act, lies your power. Ancient Stoics trained themselves to insert a question between trigger and response. Is this worth surrendering my peace? Seneca advised visualizing anger as a fire. The moment you feed it, it grows. The moment you starve it, it flickers out. Here's how to practice this. Next time you feel heat rising, try this 3-step reset. 1. Physically stop, step back, uncross your arms, even smile faintly to disrupt the tension in your body. 2. Shift perspective. Ask, will this matter in a week? Is my reaction proportionate, or am I adding fuel? 3. Choose agency. Instead of thinking they made me angry, reframe. I'm choosing how to engage with this. The key isn't to suppress emotion, but to redirect it. Anger often masks deeper feelings: hurt, fear, helplessness. When you pause, you create space to address the real wound instead of its loudest symptom. Marcus Aurelius wrote that our lives are dyed by the color of our thoughts. Anger paints in harsh strokes, but patience, that's the brushstroke of mastery. So consider this. What's one situation where anger hijacks your clarity? A commute, a family debate, a work critique. Now imagine applying the Stoic pause not as a suppression tactic, but as a reclaiming of your inner sovereignty. Because the opposite of anger isn't passivity, it's control, and that's a victory no outburst can match. Every major decision we face, whether to take that job, end that relationship, or move across the country, comes with a whirlwind of what-ifs. But the Stoics cut through that noise with two razor-sharp questions. Is this within my control? Is it just? Epictetus taught that clarity in choices doesn't come from forecasting every outcome, it comes from aligning with virtue. Picture standing at a crossroads where one path is paved with external validation, the other with inner integrity. The Stoic approach: walk the second path without looking back. Let's break this down in practice. Say you're weighing a career offer, higher pay but longer hours, tugging you away from family. The modern mind spirals. What if I regret it? What if another offer comes? Stoicism simplifies this. First, ask which parts are truly mine to control. Your preparation, your effort, your commitment to ethical work, those are yours. The company's future, market shifts, or others' opinions, those aren't. Next, is this choice just? Does it honor your responsibilities to others and yourself? If the role demands sacrificing health or relationships for money, virtue whispers a warning. Now apply this to relationships. That friendship draining your energy, you can't control their behavior, but you can choose boundaries. The question isn't, can I fix this, but am I acting with kindness and honesty? Virtue simplifies the complex. If a situation forces you to betray your values to sustain it, the answer is already clear. Here's the challenge. Identify one decision you've been circling like a hawk over prey. Maybe it's staying in a comfortable but unfulfilling job, or clinging to a one-sided connection. Strip away the fantasies of perfect timing or guaranteed outcomes. Ask instead, what would courage look like here? What would integrity choose? The Stoics didn't promise easy answers, just unshakable ones. Because when you stop deciding from fear and start choosing from principle, the path ahead isn't just clearer, it's lighter. Marcus Aurelius kept a simple rule about the company he chose to keep. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. He didn't just mean books or ideas, he meant people. The Stoics knew something profound about friendship. It's not just about companionship, but about mutual elevation. Think about your own circle for a moment. Who are the people that leave you feeling clearer, stronger, more aligned with your purpose after spending time with them? And who, however well-intentioned, seem to drain your energy or pull you into pettiness? That's the Stoic litmus test for meaningful connection. Stoic friendship isn't about collecting contacts or networking for gain. It's about cultivating bonds that sharpen your character like iron against iron. Seneca wrote letters to his friend Lucilius not just to share wisdom, but to practice it, to hold each other accountable to higher standards. Contrast that with modern friendships built on likes, algorithms, or convenience. The Stoics would ask, are these ties deepening your virtue or just filling your time? Here's the challenge hiding in plain sight. Meaningful relationships require active tending, not passive scrolling. That coworker who challenges you to think critically, the friend who listens without judgment but also isn't afraid to speak hard truths, those are the connections worth investing in. And the rest, it's not about cutting people off, but about recognizing that proximity is a privilege you grant carefully. So tonight, try this. Name one person in your life who embodies Stoic qualities: resilience, integrity, the ability to laugh at adversity. Then take one small step to nurture that bond. Send a voice note instead of a text. Share a book that shaped you, or simply sit together in silence, because real connection doesn't always need words. As Epictetus reminded his students, you become what you give your attention to. Choose wisely, because the company you keep isn't just influencing your days. It's shaping your soul. Musonius Rufus, one of Stoicism's most practical teachers, didn't just lecture about philosophy, he lived it, even insisting that physical training was inseparable from mental strength. He famously said, "How could a mind in a weak body exert itself to its fullest?" That's the Stoic approach to fitness, not sculpting the body for vanity, but forging it as an instrument of resilience. Think of it this way: when you push through that final rep or choose the stairs over the elevator, you're not just building muscle, you're training your will. Discipline spills over. The same determination that gets you off the couch for a morning run is what helps you stay composed during a stressful meeting or walk away from an unnecessary argument. The Stoics didn't worship the body, but they respected its role, a vessel for action, not decoration. Marcus Aurelius, despite the burdens of ruling an empire, made time for wrestling and weight training. Not to chase aesthetics, but to sharpen his endurance for life's heavier lifts. So how do you start? Forget extreme workouts or punishing routines. Stoic fitness is about consistency, not intensity. A daily walk becomes meditation in motion. Bodyweight exercises, push-ups, squats, planks turn into tests of focus. Even something as simple as holding perfect posture while working is a micro-training in awareness. The goal isn't to exhaust yourself, but to prove daily that discomfort won't dictate your choices. Here's the deeper question: what if every drop of sweat was more than physical? What if it was a reminder that you're tougher than your excuses? That's the Stoic shift. When your body feels like quitting and you choose to continue, you're not just burning calories. You're burning away the illusion that comfort equals strength. Because resilience isn't born in grand gestures, it's built in the quiet, daily decision to show up, even when no one's watching. Musonius put it bluntly: neglect the body and you neglect the mind. But the inverse is also true. Care for the body with intention, and you're not just training limbs, you're fortifying character. So next time you lace up your shoes or face that last set, remember, you're not just exercising, you're practicing philosophy in motion, and that kind of strength lasts long after the sweat dries. The ancient Stoics measured wealth in a way that would baffle most modern minds, not by overflowing bank accounts or lavish possessions, but by the freedom to live virtuously. Seneca, who navigated immense riches before renouncing them, saw an uncomfortable truth: luxury often becomes a gilded cage. He wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." Think about that inversion. Real abundance isn't about accumulating more, it's about needing less. Consider how this applies today. Financial stress tops global surveys of anxiety, yet how much of that comes not from actual scarcity, but from chasing society's endless benchmarks of enough? The latest phone, the bigger house, the luxury vacation posted online, each one whispers that happiness lies just beyond the next purchase. Stoicism offers a radical alternative. Define wealth as self-sufficiency, the ability to meet your needs while staying untethered to excess. Modern financial stoicism isn't about austerity, it's about intentionality. It's the gap between your earnings and your desires. The wider that gap, the freer you become. Practices like automating savings, questioning impulse buys, ask, does this serve my purpose or just my ego? Or investing in experiences over status symbols all build this resilience. Even debt repayment transforms from a burden to a training ground for discipline. Here's the pivot point: luxury corrupts not because it's evil, but because it distracts. Seneca noticed how the rich spent sleepless nights guarding their treasures, while the Stoic sage slept soundly with nothing to lose, today's equivalent. Obsessively checking stock portfolios, stressing over keeping up appearances, or trading time for money without asking why. So here's a challenge: identify one financial habit that quietly undermines your freedom. Maybe it's habitual online shopping to fill emotional voids, lifestyle inflation with each raise, or fearing financial simplicity as somehow less than. Now flip it: what's one Stoic alternative? Could packing lunch daily become a mindfulness practice? Might tracking expenses reveal hidden priorities? Every small choice to spend or not to spend is a vote for the life you truly want, because true wealth isn't about having everything, It's about having enough and recognizing you already do. The Stoics saw nature not just as trees and rivers, but as the very fabric of rationality woven through the universe and our place in it. Clean's successor to Zeno taught that living according to nature meant aligning our actions with both inner reason and the grand, interconnected order of all things. He didn't preach retreating to the wilderness, but rather recognizing that we're threads in a larger tapestry. When we act with selfishness or waste, we rupture that harmony. When we choose patience, stewardship, or simplicity, we stitch ourselves back into the whole. This ancient wisdom finds startling relevance today. Environmental mindfulness isn't just about recycling bins or carbon footprint. It's about seeing ourselves as part of nature's ecosystem, not its conquerors. Consider how a forest operates. No tree hoards more light than it needs. Decaying leaves feed new growth. There's an innate wisdom in that balance, one we've often ignored. The modern equivalent, cluttering our homes while the planet groans under landfills, or chasing endless productivity while our health erodes. Nature doesn't hustle, it thrives within limits. So how do we realign? Start small. Walk barefoot on grass to reconnect with the earth's rhythm. Observe how birds don't fret over yesterday's nests, they build anew. Then go deeper, audit your habits through nature's lens. Does your diet honor the seasons or rely on shipped in excess? Do your purchases support regeneration or depletion? Even your thoughts can mirror nature's cycle, storms of emotion passing like weather, clarity returning like dawn. Cleans wrote hymns to Zeus as the logos of the cosmos, but you need no gods to grasp his core truth. We're most ourselves when we flow with life's design, not against it. The next time you feel untethered, ask, what would harmony look like here? Maybe it's declining a meaningless purchase or sitting silently to watch the sky. Nature's wisdom isn't out there. It's in how you breathe, choose, and remember your place in the web. And that's where real transformation begins. So we've journeyed through the heart of Stoicism, unpacking how control isn't about dominating the world, but mastering your response to it. How resilience isn't just enduring storms, but learning to sail through them. And how purpose isn't found in chasing external validation, but in aligning your actions with what truly matters. These aren't just ideas, they're tools to carve away distractions, to forge clarity, and to transform not just how you think, but how you live. Epictetus, the philosopher who turned bondage into freedom, put it perfectly. No man is free who is not master of himself. That's the essence of Stoicism, not passive acceptance, but the active cultivation of inner sovereignty. The kind that lets you meet chaos with calm, setbacks with strategy, and uncertainty with unwavering intent. Now, here's where theory meets practice. Don't try to overhaul everything at once. Start small. Pick one principle to embody this week. Maybe it's the pause before reacting, the nightly reflection, or even the courage to release what no longer serves you. Progress isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. If this resonated with you, join our community of modern Stoics. Hit subscribe, and let's keep exploring how ancient wisdom can light the path to a bolder, more intentional life. Because the power to change was never out there, it's been within you all along. Now, go make it